Metabolic flexibility is one of the most overlooked but powerful aspects of human health. It's the body's ability to efficiently switch between burning carbohydrates and fats for energy, depending on what's available and what's required. When you're metabolically flexible, you can fuel a morning workout, focus deeply on work, or recover after a long day without the roller coaster of energy spikes and crashes that many people consider normal. When you're not metabolically flexible, you're trapped in a cycle of dependence on frequent meals, caffeine, and sugar to keep going. The difference between these two states isn't just about diet, it's about how your body has been trained to manage its fuel systems. Most of us grow up in an environment that promotes metabolic inflexibility. Our diets are dominated by processed foods, refined carbohydrates, and constant snacking. Every few hours, we reach for something to eat, sometimes because we're hungry, but often because we've taught our bodies to expect a steady drip of glucose. The human body, however, was not designed for constant feeding. For nearly all of human history, food availability fluctuated. Our ancestors didn't have refrigerators, convenience stores, or vending machines. They evolved to thrive in cycles of eating and fasting, and in doing so, they developed extraordinary metabolic adaptability. Modern living, with its abundance of quick energy sources, has dulled that adaptability. To understand why metabolic flexibility matters, we have to think of the body as a hybrid engine. It can run on two main fuels, glucose from carbohydrates and fatty acids from fat stores. Glucose burns fast. It's like kindling that lights up quickly but doesn't last long. Fat, on the other hand, burns slowly and steadily, like a dense log that provides heat for hours. A healthy metabolism can switch between these fuels seamlessly, using glucose when demand spikes, like during high-intensity exercise, and tapping into fat stores during rest or low-intensity activity. When this switch works properly, energy feels stable, hunger is controlled, and performance, both physical and mental, stays sharp. The problem arises when the switch between these systems gets stuck. In a metabolically inflexible state, your body becomes overly reliant on one type of fuel, typically glucose. This means that when your blood sugar drops, your energy crashes. You feel tired, irritable, and hungry, not because you truly need food, but because your body has forgotten how to access its stored energy efficiently. This is the physiological hallmark of modern fatigue, an inability to access the enormous energy reserves locked away in body fat. Training metabolic flexibility starts with understanding the role of insulin. Insulin is the hormone that allows glucose to enter cells, but it also serves as a gatekeeper between carbohydrate and fat metabolism. When insulin levels are high after eating a carb-heavy meal, for instance, fat burning is suppressed. When insulin drops during fasting, sleep, or low carb intake, the body switches to fat as its primary energy source. The trouble begins when insulin levels are chronically elevated because of frequent eating or excess refined carbohydrates. High insulin means the body is constantly in glucose-burning mode, unable to shift gears into fat burning. Over time, this can lead to insulin resistance, metabolic dysfunction, and low, unstable energy. Reclaiming metabolic flexibility doesn't require extremes. It doesn't mean adopting a rigid low-carb or ketogenic diet forever. It means retraining your metabolism to do what it was designed to do, adapt. The process begins with stabilizing blood sugar through whole, unprocessed foods and spacing out meals enough to let insulin return to baseline between eating periods. For many people, that can mean simply eliminating snacks or late-night eating. Others may benefit from time-restricted eating, confining meals to a 10 to 12-hour window each day. This small change alone can reintroduce periods where the body is forced to rely on stored fat rather than constant external fuel. The next step is balancing macronutrients intelligently. Carbohydrates aren't the enemy, but their timing and quantity matter. Most people function better with carbohydrates strategically placed around times of higher energy demand before or after workouts, for instance, when the muscles are most insulin sensitive and glycogen stores need replenishment. Outside of those windows, emphasizing protein and healthy fats provides sustained satiety and steady energy without dramatic insulin spikes. Over time, this pattern teaches the body that energy can come from multiple sources, not just sugar. Exercise plays a vital role in improving metabolic flexibility. Both resistance training and aerobic activity enhance the body's ability to use and store fuel effectively. Strength training increases muscle mass, which acts as a glucose sink, absorbing and storing blood sugar efficiently. Aerobic exercise, especially at moderate intensity, enhances mitochondrial density, allowing cells to burn fat more effectively. When you train across multiple energy systems, mixing strength work with endurance training and occasional high-intensity efforts, you're essentially teaching your metabolism to handle both kinds of fuel under different conditions. The result is not just improved performance, but more stable, enduring energy throughout the day. Sleep and stress management are often overlooked in this conversation, but are equally essential. Poor sleep raises cortisol and disrupts insulin sensitivity, making the body less efficient at switching fuel sources. Chronic stress does the same, keeping the body locked in glucose burning mode by continuously elevating cortisol and blood sugar levels. If you want true metabolic flexibility, you have to support recovery and hormonal balance just as diligently as you manage your food and exercise. Consistent sleep, mindfulness practices, and moments of downtime aren't luxuries. They're physiological necessities. It's also important to recognize the subjective signals that reflect your metabolic state. A metabolically flexible person can go several hours without eating and still think clearly, move well, and feel calm. Their energy feels even, not dependent on constant refueling. They can perform a workout after an overnight fast and still feel strong. In contrast, someone who's metabolically inflexible will experience sharp hunger, mood swings, and fatigue when meals are delayed. They'll feel the need for frequent snacks or caffeine just to maintain focus. These are not just habits. They're clues to how your internal energy systems are operating. Becoming metabolically flexible doesn't happen overnight, but small, consistent choices compound. Begin by eating real food, vegetables, quality proteins, healthy fats, and unprocessed carbohydrates. Limit liquid calories and sugar. Train your body to go longer between meals and notice how it responds. Incorporate regular movement, especially walking after meals, to support glucose control. Over time, you'll feel the difference not just in how you look or perform, but in how stable and resilient your energy feels. What's profound about this shift is that it changes your relationship with food entirely. When you're metabolically flexible, you no longer eat out of desperation, you eat by choice. Food becomes nourishment, not rescue. Energy becomes predictable, not volatile. Your focus sharpens because your brain, like your muscles, has access to a steady flow of fuel. The mid-afternoon slump disappears, the urge to snack fades, you stop living meal to meal and start living in a rhythm that supports strength, clarity, and longevity. At its core, metabolic flexibility is not just about fuel, it's about freedom. Freedom from energy crashes. Freedom from the constant mental noise of hunger. Freedom from the fatigue that holds so many people back from living fully. It's a state of balance that allows the body to perform as it was designed, to adapt, to endure, to thrive. When we cultivate metabolic flexibility, we're not chasing another diet trend or body composition goal. We're building the foundation for lasting vitality. Because energy is not something you can borrow from the next meal or the next coffee. It's something you earn through how you train, how you eat, and how you recover. A flexible metabolism doesn't just sustain strength and energy, it sustains life itself, turning each day into a demonstration of what the human body can achieve when it's properly fueled, properly rested, and properly understood. When we talk about strength and longevity, it's easy to picture barbells, treadmills, or meditation apps, but the conversation often misses the most fundamental building block of all: protein. Protein is not just a macronutrient on a nutrition label, it's the material from which our bodies are made and repaired. Every muscle fiber, every enzyme, every cell structure depends on it. If you want to live a long, strong, and capable life, not merely survive but thrive, then understanding and prioritizing protein is one of the most powerful things you can do. Muscle, more than any other tissue, defines how we age. It's what lets us get out of a chair unassisted, carry our groceries, or protect ourselves from falls. But muscle is also deeply metabolic. It's a sink for glucose, a regulator of insulin sensitivity, and a major determinant of overall energy expenditure. In essence, muscle is not just about aesthetics or athleticism. It's about function and health span. And protein is the raw material that maintains that muscle throughout life. As we age, the body naturally becomes less efficient at using dietary protein to build and repair muscle, a phenomenon known as anabolic resistance. This means that older adults need even more high-quality protein to achieve the same effect that a younger person would get from less. The tragedy is that many people eat less protein as they get older, not more. Appetite decreases, convenience foods increase, and the result is a steady erosion of lean mass, strength, and independence. The loss of muscle, called sarcopenia, is one of the most underappreciated public health problems of aging. It is directly linked to frailty, falls, metabolic disease, and even mortality. And yet, it is not inevitable. With sufficient protein intake and strength training, it can be slowed dramatically or even reversed. So what does sufficient mean? While exact numbers vary by individual, the evidence suggests that most active adults should consume roughly 1.6 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. For someone weighing 70 kilograms, that's between 110 and 150 grams daily. This isn't a random figure, it's the range most strongly associated with preserving lean mass and supporting recovery, especially in those who train or are trying to maintain strength while aging. Unfortunately, many people fall far short of this without realizing it. A typical breakfast might include a few eggs or a slice of toast with peanut butter, barely 15 grams of protein. Lunch might be a salad with a small portion of chicken, maybe another 20 grams. Dinner could bring another 25 to 30 grams. Altogether, that's 60 to 70 grams in a day, far below what the body needs for optimal repair and growth. The goal isn't to chase numbers blindly, but to develop awareness of what true adequacy feels like. Protein should be evenly distributed across meals because the body can only use a limited amount of amino acids at a time for muscle synthesis. Aiming for 30 to 40 grams per meal is a practical target for most people. That's roughly equivalent to 5 ounces of chicken breast, a full can of tuna, a large serving of Greek yogurt, or a plant-based combinations such as lentils with quinoa and tofu. Quality matters too. Protein is made up of amino acids, the essential ones being those our bodies cannot produce on their own. Foods that contain all essential amino acids in sufficient quantities are called complete proteins, and these are typically found in animal sources such as meat, fish, eggs, and dairy. Plant proteins can absolutely support strength and longevity as well, but they often need to be combined like beans with rice or tofu with grains to create the full amino acid spectrum. For those who prefer or require plant-based diets, attention to diversity and volume becomes especially important. Beyond quantity and quality, timing also influences how effectively the body uses protein. After resistance exercise, muscles become more sensitive to amino acids, meaning that consuming protein within a few hours of training enhances recovery and adaptation. This doesn't mean you need to drink a shake the second you set down the weights, but it does mean that regular, consistent intake throughout the day supports a more favorable anabolic environment than skipping meals or fasting excessively. Some people worry that high protein intake could harm the kidneys or bones, but in healthy individuals, these concerns are largely unfounded. Studies show that, if anything, protein supports bone density by improving muscle strength and stimulating bone-building hormones. As for the kidneys, the evidence indicates that high-protein diets are safe for people with normal renal function. What does harm the kidneys, ironically, are the very metabolic disorders, such as diabetes and obesity, that a higher protein, lower processed diet helps prevent. Protein also plays an important role in appetite regulation and body composition. It is the most satiating macronutrient, meaning it naturally reduces hunger and helps maintain a healthier weight without deliberate calorie restriction. When you eat sufficient protein, especially at breakfast and lunch, you're less likely to experience energy crashes or sugar cravings later in the day. This stability in appetite translates directly to stability in energy, fewer highs and lows, less reliance on caffeine or snacks to get through the afternoon. But protein alone doesn't create strength or longevity. It's the partnership between nutrition and resistance training that unlocks the full potential of both. Lifting weights or performing bodyweight resistance work provides the signal, the stimulus for muscle growth. Protein provides the building blocks. Without one, the other loses much of its effect. This is why people who simply increase protein without moving more see limited gains, while those who train consistently but underconsume protein often struggle to recover or improve. Consider muscle as your body's retirement account. Every workout is a deposit, and every gram of protein is a contribution to that account. In youth, it's easy to overlook because you have plenty of reserves. But as the decades pass, the withdrawals, illness, stress, inactivity start to accumulate. The people who invested early, who built and maintained their muscle through proper nutrition and training, are the ones who remain active, independent, and resilient deep into old age. They can pick up their grandchildren, hike, or simply live without fear of frailty. Strength also protects metabolic health. Skeletal muscle is a major site for glucose disposal. When you eat carbohydrates, muscle tissue helps clear that glucose from your bloodstream. More muscle means better insulin sensitivity and lower risk of type 2 diabetes. Conversely, when muscle mass declines, glucose regulation worsens, inflammation rises, and the risk of chronic disease increases. Protein, therefore, is not just about aesthetics or performance, it's a metabolic safeguard against the diseases of aging. A protein-centered diet doesn't need to be complicated or rigid. It can fit any lifestyle, whether you prefer 3 large meals or smaller, more frequent ones. The key is awareness, making protein the anchor of each meal and building around it. Start with the protein source, then add vegetables, healthy fats, and carbohydrates appropriate for your activity level. It's a subtle shift in thinking but a profound one. Instead of asking, what should I eat less of? You ask, what does my body need more of to stay strong? That mindset leads naturally toward nourishment, not restriction. Longevity isn't just about living longer, it's about maintaining the physical capacity to live fully. The ability to move, to lift, to explore, to play, these are not luxuries, they are the essence of vitality. And the fuel that sustains that ability is protein. When you consume it deliberately and consistently, you're not just feeding your muscles, you're preserving your autonomy, your resilience, and your freedom to live life on your own terms. So, if there's one nutrition principle worth carrying through every decade of life, it's this. Treat protein as a priority, not an afterthought. Build your meals around it, respect its role, and pair it with movement. The dividends it pays in energy, strength, and quality of life will far outweigh any short-term dietary trend or supplement. In the end, longevity isn't about reaching an age, it's about arriving there strong enough to do what you love. And that begins with giving your body the building blocks it needs every day, one meal at a time. The idea that nutrition should be personalized, not perfect, challenges one of the most common misconceptions about health, that there is one best diet that works for everyone. People often search for the perfect plan, the magic combination of foods, supplements, and timing that will unlock strength, energy, and longevity. But biology doesn't conform to universal templates. Each of us carries a different genetic blueprint, metabolic profile, lifestyle pattern, and psychological relationship with food. What fuels one person might exhaust another. What enhances performance for an athlete might create imbalance for someone sedentary. Perfection in nutrition is an illusion, and often a harmful one. When people aim for perfection, they fall into cycles of rigidity and guilt. They measure success by adherence to a plan, not by how their body performs or feels. But health isn't about rules, it's about adaptation. The human body is a dynamic system, not a static machine. It changes with age, environment, stress, sleep, and hormonal shifts. Nutrition, therefore, must evolve with it. The optimal approach isn't about eating clean all the time. It's about learning how to make choices that align with your body's needs in your specific context over time. Personalized nutrition starts with awareness of how different foods and patterns affect you. This means paying attention to signals like energy levels, focus, recovery, mood, and digestion. If you eat a meal and feel mentally sharp and physically stable for hours afterward, that's valuable feedback. If you crash 2 hours later or experience bloating or fatigue, that's feedback too. Your body is constantly giving you data, you just have to listen. This process also involves learning your body's metabolic tendencies. Some people thrive on higher carbohydrate intake, particularly those with high training volumes or naturally fast metabolisms. Others perform better on a higher fat, lower carbohydrate approach that stabilizes blood sugar and reduces hunger swings. There is no moral hierarchy between these strategies. What matters is how efficiently your metabolism uses energy. This is what scientists call metabolic flexibility, the ability to shift between burning glucose and fat depending on demand. People who lack metabolic flexibility often experience fatigue, brain fog, and difficulty managing weight, not because they're undisciplined, but because their cells have lost efficiency in handling fuel. One of the simplest ways to personalize nutrition is to understand how your body responds to carbohydrates. Glucose monitoring, for example, can be a powerful feedback tool. Continuous glucose monitors, CGMs, reveal how specific foods affect blood sugar and energy stability. Two people can eat the same bowl of oatmeal and have completely different responses, one with a mild rise and stable energy, another with a sharp spike and subsequent crash. Personalized nutrition takes that data and uses it to guide adjustments, perhaps pairing carbohydrates with protein and fat, or shifting intake around training sessions. Another critical dimension of personalization is protein. Protein needs are not fixed across populations. They depend on body composition, activity level, and goals. Someone trying to gain muscle will have different requirements than someone focused on weight maintenance or recovery from injury. Yet, a general principle holds true: most people underestimate their protein needs. Adequate protein supports muscle repair, satiety, and metabolic rate. It also buffers against age-related muscle loss, which is one of the strongest predictors of longevity and independence in later life. The key is consistency, distributing protein evenly throughout the day rather than loading it all into a single meal. Fat intake, too, varies greatly between individuals. Some people metabolize saturated fats efficiently, while others experience elevated lipid levels even with moderate intake. Genetic testing can sometimes clarify this, but simple blood work and observation are often enough. The best diet for one person may emphasize olive oil, avocado, nuts, and fish, while another person might include more whole eggs and dairy without issue. Common denominator is that fat should support hormonal balance and provide stable energy without leading to excess caloric intake. Personalization also means considering the rhythm of your day, your circadian biology. The timing of meals influences energy levels, digestion, and even gene expression. For some, a time-restricted eating window helps with metabolic control and mental clarity. For others, particularly those who train heavily or experience stress, fasting can backfire, leading to poor recovery and hormonal disruption. The question isn't, is fasting good or bad, but rather, does it serve my physiology and lifestyle right now? Beyond macronutrients and timing, personalization extends to micronutrients and hydration. People living in hot climates or training intensely will require more electrolytes. Those who avoid certain food groups, such as animal products, may need to monitor nutrients like vitamin B12, iron, and omega-3s. Perfectionists often ignore these details, focusing instead on rigid rules like no carbs after 6 p.m. or always organic. But the body doesn't care about slogans. It cares about sufficiency, having enough of what it needs to perform, repair, and adapt. A personalized approach also respects psychology. Food is not just chemistry, it's culture, comfort, and identity. Sustainable nutrition must work within the emotional and social context of your life. A plan that isolates you or creates constant anxiety around food is not sustainable, no matter how clean it looks on paper. The best diet is one that integrates seamlessly into your life, that you can follow without friction. That doesn't mean it's effortless. Discipline still matters, but it should be a discipline rooted in purpose, not punishment. This is where data and intuition must meet. Data can guide, but intuition must interpret. Devices like glucose monitors, sleep trackers, and fitness wearables can reveal patterns, but they can't tell you how you feel. Numbers are only meaningful when you correlate them with experience. If your blood sugar graph looks stable, but you're exhausted and irritable, something is off. If you feel energetic and sleep well even with a less than perfect metric, that's worth acknowledging. Another layer of personalization comes from life stage. What works at 25 may not work at 45. Hormonal changes, muscle mass, stress levels, and recovery capacity evolve over time. Nutrition must evolve too. A younger athlete might tolerate high carbohydrate intake without issue, while someone in midlife might benefit from moderating it to maintain insulin sensitivity. Likewise, protein and resistance training become increasingly important with age to preserve lean mass and function. Personalized nutrition is also about trade-offs. You can't optimize everything at once. Pushing for maximum leanness might come at the expense of performance or hormonal health. Increasing calories to build strength might temporarily affect insulin sensitivity. The key is to choose consciously, to know which goals you're prioritizing and why. Perfectionism demands everything at once. Personalization makes deliberate choices. Perhaps most importantly, personalization demands patience. The body doesn't adapt overnight. When you change your diet, you're changing hormonal signaling, gut microbiota, and cellular metabolism. These systems take time to recalibrate. Expecting immediate results leads to frustration and abandonment. Real change happens when you view nutrition as an ongoing experiment. Observe, adjust, and iterate. The mindset shift from perfect to personal also reduces stress. Many people fail not because they lack willpower, but because they aim for impossible standards. They fall off their plan after a few deviations and label themselves as failures, but biology doesn't punish flexibility, it rewards consistency. Missing one workout or eating dessert is irrelevant in the long arc of behavior. What matters is the pattern, the trend line over months and years. When you stop chasing perfection, you create space for curiosity. You begin to ask better questions. How do I feel after certain meals? How is my recovery trending? What adjustments help me sleep better or perform better? This curiosity turns nutrition into a process of learning, not restriction. It becomes empowering rather than exhausting. In the end, the best diet is the one that helps you live the life you want, strong, energetic, and clear-minded. It's not a template from a book or a meal plan copied from someone else. It's a dynamic relationship between you and your biology, fine-tuned through awareness and experimentation. It evolves as you evolve. Perfection is static, personalization is alive, and health, by its very nature, is a living process. The goal is not to eat perfectly, it's to eat intelligently with purpose, adaptability, and a deep respect for the uniqueness of your body. That's how you build strength, sustain energy, and most importantly, stay in the game for the long run.